SIG Sauer has been one of the most respected names in firearms, trusted by militaries, law enforcement, and civilians around the world. But lately, that reputation has been under pressure. They've had a rough year, a wave of lawsuits, allegations that pistols are firing uncommanded, law enforcement agencies pausing its use, courts, juries, and even state legislatures getting involved. At the center of it all, the P320, as well as the M17 and M18. SIG Sauer says the gun is safe. Critics say the gun tells a different story. So what actually happened? What's proven? What's alleged? And why does it matter for one of the most influential guns of our time? Today we're breaking down why SIG Sauer is having such a rough time and what it means for the future of our service pistol. So I was taking down my talking points, my bullet points, for the M17 video, to talk about the art, engineering, whatnot that goes into it, like I've been doing with different guns, to tell the story of American culture. But I couldn't stop going down that rabbit hole, just a side tangent on all the controversy going on with SIG right now. So I'm doing it in this video, and I will get to this later this week. So let's discuss the elephant in the room. In my experience, it all started with the drop safe moment where the internet blew up. Back in, I think, 2017, Omaha Outdoors, they launched a video that went viral of the SIG P320 not being drop safe. The clip showed that if the gun was dropped at a certain angle, basically this, where almost as if the beaver tail and the back of the slides hit at the same time, the gun would shoot. So no trigger press, no intent, just impact and ignition. Independent testers were able to reproduce the issue all over the internet. And while SIG met the federal standard for drop safety tests, apparently this is not part of the drop safety test for the government. I would like to say to their credit, but no, not to their credit. SIG launched the Voluntary Upgrade Program. To my knowledge, they used a lighter trigger because the old trigger was kind of a thick boy. It's nice and thin now. And so I guess that weight, when it dropped, there was enough weight in the trigger that it would move on its own because it doesn't have a dingus like a Glock or an M&P would. They might have made internal changes, but it's hard to tell. I have an original gun. I have one that I sent in for the upgrade. I have an M17. And I couldn't really tell a huge difference. I've also took these FCUs all apart to replace with aftermarket springs and whatnot. SIG doesn't iterate to tell us, oh, this is the P320A1 or Mark II. They're just like, oh, this is still a P320. So it's like, how do we know what we have? How do we know if there's internal parts changes? It's silly the way that SIG decides to operate. I think it's important to mention that Bruce Gray of Gray Guns actually patented the trigger upgrade. Bruce Gray has been saying that there's nothing wrong with the gun. There's nothing wrong with the trigger system. It's perfectly safe. He goes on tangents on the internet when he's profiting off of the gun going wrong because he got to patent an upgrade. So it's all a little weird. Anyways, for many shooters, the voluntary upgrade calmed the waters, or so it seemed. Reports started coming in from civilians, law enforcement, and even federal agencies saying that their upgraded or new model, new generation P320, because again, they don't tell us what generation we're on, were discharging uncommanded. Some went as far to say, and were proved by video evidence, that their gun fired not being touched while in their holster. I remember one instance where SIG had said that a backpack strap had gotten into the holster which caused the gun to discharge. Really? Did it, SIG? Others claimed the gun fired on its own while lifting equipment, while walking, or just standing there. At the time of recording this video, it is the end of 2025. There are more than 100 lawsuits open against SIG Sauer. Many of the plaintiffs claim that they never touched the trigger, and people have been hurt. There's been one major verdict where SIG Sauer had to pay over $2 million to the person carrying the gun because it discharged in their holster. The jury found the gun to be defective. SIG Sauer, meanwhile, has stood firm. They insist that the gun will not fire without a trigger pull, and that the incidents, or as Ben Steger says, SIGcidents, happen due to mishandling or foreign objects or worn holsters. I guess just user error, incorrect operation. This disagreement between plaintiffs and the defense of SIG Sauer, etc., is what's fueling this controversy to this day. One of the bigger issues that happened this year was about the M18, so this gun, but like that. Just the compact version. F.E. Warren Air Force Base, an airman was killed.
It was his own SIG.
At first, it seemed like it was one of these uncommanded discharges, the kind that we were just talking about previously. And the Air Force actually paused the use of the M18 by security forces. Later reporting indicated that the investigators actually found that it was not a spontaneous discharge. Another airman reportedly pointed the pistol as a joke, which is against every rule of firearm safety. And he pulled the trigger and then lied about it. Fortunately for SIG, that moves, at least this case, out of the mechanical failure category. But it also highlights something else. By this point, the self-firing SIGcidents have become so prevalent that it made national news headlines, and military command knew or thought that something was wrong with the gun. Talking about the M17, M18 real quick, I have never seen the gun explode, but I can understand how it did, and I'll show you why. When I was training people with smaller hands, and oftentimes females, the military cartridge is actually a plus P round. It's this flat-nosed plus P, 124 grain, and it kicks a lot more than your standard 115 grain range ammo. The military guns actually have a much stronger spring in them because of that, and some people actually struggle to rack the military variant. This one has a civilian spring in it right now. It's just nice and easy to rack, nice and smooth shooting gun. But anyways, people with small hands or weak wrists limp wrist the gun. What that means is when you're firing, instead of holding it like a tool and you're just maintaining that shot, each shot you ruin your grip because the gun flops out. You lose your grip and comes back. What this did to shooters, and I'll show you here, it racks back, and then because of the momentum of your weak wrist, it comes back. And you can see here, it doesn't go into battery. So you still have your barrel tilting up, and I would see when people were shooting, all the rounds would be hitting above the bullseye on the target. Because when you pull the trigger, and this gun doesn't do it, I tested it, when you pull the trigger on the military guns, it would just and shoot. So I can see why the guns were exploding, because it's not in battery. Again, I never saw this happen. Every time I saw this happen, the trigger actually pushed the slide back and it would shoot high. Every time. But just talking about different tolerances and, machining's not perfect, I can see why guns could explode. And if the gun was failing to go into battery with such a heavy spring in the military guns, I can imagine with the lighter civilian springs, it probably happens a lot. Is that a training issue? Yes. But I've seen people limp wrist other guns that don't do that. So I would also call it a P320 issue. And when we were testing these for the military, we actually did report this specific issue back to SIG Sauer through the MHS program. I would say it's a problem because physics exist. I do follow Ben Steger's videos while I'm on the toilet or driving, and I heard him saying there's a company with a fix for it. I think he said it was BH, Bravo Hotel Precision. He says that he's seen P320s explode more than once. Like I said, I have not. In any case, SIG Sauer and Bruce Gray explain it away as poor ammunition. But if it's happening with factory ammo, I think that's another SIG gaslight incident. Moving on. As of late 2025, one of the most recent public reports is from a security guard who said that their weapon went off in the holster on its own, and it's on camera. His words, "The gun just went off." As with many of the open cases, investigators have not confirmed or denied that that happened. Is it a mechanical self-discharge, a carry issue, or an equipment issue? Like many claims, it has not been proven, but the claims are stacking up. At what point does SIG say, okay, that's a lot? Lawsuits are continuing to mount, including one from the state of New Jersey, seeking a recall of all P320s within the state. And I went to a local gun store, and they told me people are just selling their P320s, and they're offering them like $100. And they're like, yep, take it, I don't want it. I wouldn't do this to this. I mean, this actually has a Bruce Gray spring kit in it, and it shoots really nice, honestly. Random fact, I have a Harrington Arms compensator on this, and I was going to shoot this for USPSA this year, and I asked them if they could just sell me this. In January 2nd this year, I asked them if they could sell me this, but without porting, so I could just use it as sort of like an island barrel, or like a barrel weight, like the new staccatos that came out this year. Yeah, I was ahead of the game. I'm that hipster. And they said no, and then they came out, I think like a couple of months ago, with one for the Glock called the Hacker, HAQR. So they emailed me like, no, we can't do that, and then they released it for the Glock. I was kind of butthurt, honestly. I hope they come up with one for this. Not that I really shoot this anymore because I'm on staccatos. Anyway, side tangent. At this point, the controversy isn't an isolated incident. It's widespread, and to me, it's becoming about trust, engineering, liability, corporate bullshit, and honestly just safety. This isn't really just a controversy about the gun anymore. It's become a bigger conversation about safety, standards, and how a company should show up. Depending on who you talk to, the P320 is a safe, highly modular pistol or a deeply unsafe handgun. I tend to lean towards it is a modern masterpiece in the sense of modularity, but there's something wrong, I don't know if it's the tolerances or what, that some guns can just go off. As of recording this gun has been banned from different ranges and different police agencies. No federal agency has declared it completely unsafe to my knowledge. Correct me if I'm wrong. And millions of civilians are leaning both ways. But if you look at the internet, SIG bad.
This SIG. No way.
I think it's become a complex firearm with a complex history, and its controversy is still evolving. To get a bit autistic in my opinions, I think the drop safe issue is way overblown on the internet. From what we've seen, it requires that very specific drop angle on a hard surface at the right timing. It's almost like you're forcing a wrong combination at the wrong moment. And historically, I have this Garrison that I only kept the frame, slide, and barrel on, and everything else hand fit to look like an Alchemy custom weaponry Prime Elite. Legendary handguns like this are not drop safe. This isn't a perfect, safe gun, but we carried it from 1911 till 1985, probably a little bit later, as the M9s were rolling out. And if you drop this on its nose, it will fire. This is one of the greatest handguns ever made. The greatest handgun ever made, if you want my opinion. Yet, drop scenarios exist there too. And nobody pretends that this is a bad gun because of it. It's legendary. But here's where I do have a problem. SIG's messaging. We have all seen videos of this gun going off in people's holsters. Uncommanded, no trigger pull. And you have the audacity to tell us that it's not happening? And then to drop a voluntary upgrade program instead of saying, here's the fix. Yes, we're fixing a problem with our gun. You're going to label it as a voluntary upgrade? Dude, if you would just take accountability, people would respect you. But instead you're pulling some corporate shit on us that nobody wants to hear. There is compelling evidence that at least something is happening in some cases, which goes back to my thoughts that maybe it's just tolerances. Personally, I carried this firearm. I shot it hard. I carried it hard. It protected me in the deserts of Iraq and Syria, and it never went off or exploded, or I never dropped it and made it go off. I have dropped it, but it never went off. But the absence of me experiencing that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And when people see authentic footage of it happening, and then they're told it's not happening by a corporation, that gap creates distrust. SIG even launched the site P320 Truth, saying there are 5 steps that are required for this gun to go off. It doesn't go off by itself. But then we watch a video, SIG. Stop gaslighting us. Beyond the P320 Truth website, they had that campaign where they said, it ends today. As if they were going to tell all of us that we're all dumb and their gun's fine. It didn't end that day. It's still happening. And there's new allegations regularly. My issue isn't that I hate the P320, not at all. Like I said, I've carried it, I've competed with it, I've trained with it. My issue is SIG's lack of accountability and poor corporate ethics, and how they've handled this entire situation. This is in addition to the frustrations that I already had, that SIG does what seems like testing on their consumers and doesn't iterate the different upgrades that they make over time, so you never know what model you have. And then I think the last thing that I kind of want to go on a tangent on, there was a video of SIG saying, well, if you don't feel safe carrying your SIG, just carry one without a round in the chamber. Like, no shit. Are you serious? I don't know if that would be considered gaslighting, but it feels bad to hear. If there's anything I could say to SIG if they would hear me, it would be stop with the corporate crap and fire your vile marketers. And remember the people who actually buy your products. They're American patriots, and they deserve to be treated as such. I started this video saying that you are one of the most respected gun companies, and that's true. But you're falling out of favor. The graph is on the downslope, and I think there could be a point of no return.
Mr. Sig's grave is mighty well tended.
I'll be honest, I am a recovering SIG fanboy. I was stoked when the Army moved to SIG. And I hope that future leaders, the future CEO or whomever, returns the company to its former glory. Because you're in a bad spot, SIG. At the end of the day, the P320, the M17, has made its mark as one of the main chapters of American history when it comes to service pistols. And whether you see it as an engineering breakthrough or a cautionary tale or something in between, it's earned its place in American culture. And now that I've gotten this off my chest, the M17 is going to get the video it deserves.